Hello, everybody. I got a pretty incredible story today, and it's about you can see on the picture Chad Simpson. He's alleged murderer and a Midland police officer, K9 police officer, and that's his wife that he was alleged to have murdered and then killed himself. And he did that in front of his two babies, or that's what the law enforcement says. Anyway, here the name of this is a serial killer who had rented a costume, and the reason it's named that is because a comment that was made by Chad's aunt, who suggested that the secret police in my house were serial killers who had rented costumes. She was denying the fact that it was Chad. Now we know it was Chad. Okay, I'm just going to read this to you. There's a guy from Hobbs been commenting. His name's John Whittington, and he said, I knew Chad Simpson. He was a cop. He grew up in Hobbs, New Mexico. He was my neighbor's son. His dad was a detective in Hobbs. I heard he was killed by bad cops. And I said, one of the former secret police that was caught on camera at my home was seen wearing a Midland K9 police jacket. It was suggested that this was Chad Simpson, since he was a Midland K9 police officer, but his aunt, Annette Elliot Peacock, was extremely rude and suggested it was serial killers in my home that had rented costumes. She then threatened to sue me. In 2018, Empire Private Investigations identified this guy in the picture as Chad Simpson, but that was 4 years after he was alleged to have murdered his wife and then killed himself. Many people said that Chad was a good guy, and they wondered if he had offered to snitch on the other secret police here at my house. And since they're connected with multiple capital crimes and murders in relation to the underground homes, they silenced him and Sandra. Chad's name was not found on the long withheld police report as being at my home, along with 5 other officers whose names had been illegally omitted from the police report. That's a felony to falsify a police report, and 6 names were missing from the police report, so it was clearly falsified. Somebody committed a felony. Another law enforcement officer whose name was omitted from the report but had been seen on camera and identified by the private investigator was the late Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor. He was the second person seen arriving at my home minutes after I was shot with my phone lines cut, and he just happened to die in the line of duty 2 months before the Simpsons died. So now you have 2 secret police dead, and both of them, when they died, there was a reward offered for their identity. The same thing was suggested about Naylor. Maybe he was going to snitch, and they took him out. Naylor was married to a woman from Hobbs. And there seems to be several connections to Hobbs, New Mexico. I transferred to Midland from Hobbs in 2008. Chad and Sandra were from Hobbs, and Naylor was married to a woman from Hobbs. And the DA at the time, Teresa Klingman, had a brother was a longtime attorney judge over there in Hobbs, Lovington. It's believed that Teresa or Klingman has been helping to cover up the crimes and murders connected with the underground homes. She knew about all this evidence, and she never filed any charges against them police, nothing, and then she resigned. That's what happened. I'm going to show you some of the screenshots I've got here. That was a news article. Midland police officer shoots wife, self, and apparent murder-suicide. And you can see that's a big news story. Especially what they didn't tell you is I had a reward offered for his identity. He was one of the secret police in my home. And here's where I got a message from a private investigator that was telling me he has a witness that will testify that Chad Simpson told him that he was in my home. Okay. And so I mean, we got the name of the guy that will testify to that. Here's a guy that was a neighbor to Chad and Sandra Simpson, and he said when he come home that cops were on his roof and they were looking for somebody, which kind of negates the thing that Chad killed himself and killed Sandra and then killed himself if they're up there on his roof and they're looking for somebody, And I've wondered if Chad wasn't taken out. Okay. Here's another old Facebook post, alleged murderer Chad Simpson, and basically I'm talking about his cousin Jeff Milford, dated 12/19/19, who threatened me by saying, if you do not stop this nonsense about Chad Simpson, I will sue you for slander. This is the only post I will send to cease and desist. Of course, I blocked him. This is another cop over in Lubbock that was Chad's cousin. See, I get threatened to be sued over and over again, and I'm the crippled victim of a home invasion and capital attempted murder that these dirty cops were involved in. Jerry Morales, he was the mayor of Midland back then, and I sent his picture, Chad's picture, or the picture of the secret police to the mayor and the city council, and I asked this simple question: can you confirm or deny if any of these people are Midland police officers or not? And he ignored it, trying to hope it would go away, that they'd cover up the crimes and murders in the underground homes. But Chad goes and murders his wife, and many people are asking, did Mayor Morales negate his duty, and now Sandra's dead because of it? Okay, here's Annette Elliot Peacock. That's Chad's aunt. She was extremely rude to me, And here's Annette. She writes there at the bottom. She says, "No, I know he murdered his wife and left his precious babies orphans. You can fucking rent uniforms. That's how serial killers abduct so many. You need sued for slander." So the Chad's aunt was suggesting that Chad was a serial killer and had rented a uniform before they come to my house to murder me. That's what she suggested, And I said, you can sue CBS 7 and the chief of police, and I put a news article down there. I'm quoting what was in the paper. And then I said, you can help clear Chad's name and help me at the same time by just contacting MPD and demanding they identify the secret police. It took 6 years and a $2,000 reward to get them dirty cops identified. And then she says, call Nancy Grace. I'm not helping you. This is Chad's aunt. I think maybe she knows something about the underground homes and crimes and murders here. Okay. Here's another one here. This is a news release on Chad Simpson. And basically what it's saying is there was a 911 call that come in before, and then the police go over. There was a silent 911 call. That's what it is. Silent 911. Somebody dialed 911, hung up the phone, and they left the house. And then they're suggesting it was Chad, that he did that before he murdered his wife in front of his little children and then killed himself and left them as orphans, And a lot of people just not buying that story. They think somebody killed him. And, especially since he was a secret police and they're trying to cover that up. Here's Morales again. Here's Sandra Simpson's obituary. I tell you what was weird. A nurse told me at the hospital, she said, yeah, when Sandra got there, they said that she was talking to him. She was alive. She was stable. Actually, that was the word used. She was stable. But then the press reported that she died that night. And then they come back later. Oh, no, she didn't die. She died a couple days later at the hospital. Something real fishy went on up there at the hospital with Sandra Simpson. Because like I said, I had a nurse telling me that she was stable when she got to the hospital. And then all of a sudden she's dead, and then the news is sitting there reporting first she died, and then that she didn't die, and she died a couple days later. They were all over the place. Our press is so corrupt. And here I'm just showing you here all the different news stories. These are different news stations. Cop murders his wife. Cop murders his wife. Cop murders his wife. And when you have that, what you're really reading, a murder suicide. One person is the murderer, and the other one's the crime victim. Okay, so one person chose to murder somebody that didn't want to die, and the other person is just the innocent victim of a murder victim, right? And in this case, Chad Simpson was the murderer, right? And Sandra was the murderee, right? But that's if he's the one that took her out. There's a lot of questions about that because of all the other facts that have not been considered, like such as him being a secret police at my home. And so I just wanted to show you that. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.